Here we are at a major water feature in southeast Michigan. We are in Wayne County in the city of Wayne, and we're looking at a small area that's been cleared, and there's going to be some construction here. And the tree line that you see is going to lead us down to the bank of the Lower Rouge River. So we're going to enter here and take a look at some of the things that we might find in here. It's been a while since anybody's been entering these areas regularly, so the paths that had been here for people are not here anymore. But there's plenty of deer trails, and we're going to be taking advantage of that eventually by placing some new trails down here. Now, as the construction for the new buildings takes place, perhaps this material will be removed, things like that, and there's styrofoam over there. If we have an opportunity, we're going to come down here before the construction takes place. Of course, we can't move that. It's about 4 feet wide, 4 feet long, and 4.5 to 5 inches thick. Here we have a wide variety of plants, some that were put in the area for the parks in the past, and also wild grape grows thickly here. And in some places, not too much here, causes a big problem because it climbs up the trees and chokes them out and brings them down to the ground. Now here we're taking a look at a 5-gallon bucket of JM membrane bonding adhesive, which has been left in here along with the rollers, and looks like they got some solar seal going on over there. And we have PVC piping in front of us that's split down the middle, which is kind of interesting. Styrofoam. And here's some more natural area. So we're moving through here, and it'll take us to a park portion, which is a paved road. The scent of sewage is wafting in the air here. It's not very thick right now. However, it can be very thick at times because along the Lower Rouge River and most of the river tributaries and rivers in southeast Michigan, the decision was made in the 1950s because it was cheaper, easier to do it. They ran the sewage lines along the river because it was naturally declining, and they could get the water down to Detroit where they treated it. At this time, that's not working out too well. Let's take a look at something very interesting here. So we have some lichen. Amazing. On the way back, we'll get some photographs of that. Just fabulous. So here's some lichen. And it's odd how it takes on the look of a Carolina Bay, but this is very small. So we'll be taking a look at that. So we're seeing some very thick growth here, a lot of underbrush. There are larger trees, evidence of creatures living here, or an old tree pulled out. In any case, it's a pretty deep hole. And now the smell of sewage is getting a little thicker, and that could be coming from the river or from the sewage lines that may be around here somewhere. You can see it's an idyllic setting. It's very nice looking. It's pretty in here. It's a wide open area. Down below that dip we see in front of us, the dip kind of can't see it here because the greenery is so thick, but right along there the land dips down, and we're going to go take a look at that in just a moment. But you can see this is rather idyllic, and on the other side you'll see some well-lit areas, and there are some glades over there. So as you can see, as soon as we make a nice path through here and do not destroy the environment, then we'll have some pretty cool things going on. So now we're getting into the part that I wanted to show you, and this area is not going to be replaced by the construction. So something like this, volunteers would need to move. It's about 12 feet wide there that we're looking at, 16 on the other side, and I think that's about 20 to 24 inches tall, and it's got a nice pipe sticking out of it. So don't know what's going on there. Here we have perhaps what could be an animal's burrow, pretty deep. And then we have a collection of broken bottles over here. And one of the more unique features introduced by people in this area, whether it's a homeless person's camp or something that the kids have put up, it's hard to say. A great many logs have been piled up in this area. Now normally this is a vernal pond area and a vernal stream area. So whatever's going on over there is blocking the natural flow of waters. And then we have all these clothes down here for a very curious presentation. Broken glass. This is all public land, by the way. So, and it's in the middle of a city of 17,251 people, more or less, and a general population in the surrounding area 1.2 million. So here we have this rather fort-like structure. It's going to have to be dismantled in some way, or at least the plastics taken away and the nylon cloths. And let's head on down this way for the amazing part of the tour. Here we have some major corrosion going on this metal item. This set of metal items here looks like it's left over a motor or a refrigerator. There's some caging material. We're coming on down here, taking a look around. So this is the other side of the so-called fort. Heads out over there. Say it spoils the view is one thing, but there's other things going on in here. Oof. Just walked into a spider's web. So there we go. Some things are undisturbed in here, right? So let's take a look over here. Just for a moment, because there was something. So here we see one of the channels of the vernal stream very clearly right there. So in springtime and sometimes in autumn and even sometimes in the wintertime, water will flow along through here. And this area may be inundated itself, or it may give up its water and send it along. And off to our right, we see these dusted plants, which indicates to us, let's see if we can get the dusty look for you, that water has come up here. So here is the non-dusty plant, and here is dusty plant. So they've been exposed to something. And in this case, normally when I see it like this, there's a dust on them, but it looks like whatever it is either growing on it or killing it. But it is certainly not being produced by that plant. So there we have a normal one, and here we have with whatever mess was put on top of it. Over there, we see a manhole for the sewer line. Now, what happens is if that sewer line gets backed up, then it comes out of the ground and gets disposed of all around here. The other thing that can happen is when the river comes up, if the sewer line is down and they're running the stuff normally as they do far, far to the east into Detroit for treatment, then the river will go down into the sewer lines and overload the sewer system. And what we're seeing here, so there's the manhole cover, but let's take a look at some geologic features of the area. Here is I won't call this part a cliff, it raises up, there's certainly a bluff here that goes along for many miles. Oh man, the sewage is hitting me a little bit right now, so we're gonna move out of this area. Whew. That's dangerous too, you know. If the gas is built up, you can get very sick. So there is a bluff that runs along here. From here, approximately 7 miles to the west, and at least 4 to 5 miles to the east, perhaps all the way down to Detroit, but we haven't gone all the way down there yet. But there are what we call the cliffs of the Rouge here in the city of Wayne. We're moving down here, trying to avoid the poison ivy. It's mixed in with that other stuff we were looking at. Stepping over it, all right. And now we're coming out to an area that's already been paved, and you'll see a different look out here. Here, by the way, wild grape, very strong corded vine there in the center of your screen, going up, 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 and you'll see that this particular tree is already being tilted to the right. And what the stuff will do is it'll grow over, it'll cover all the leaves of the tree itself, break it down and pull it down and spread through this entire area if it possibly can. So the way to deal with it, ideally, would be to cut it up, but if you just pop it, you just cut it where it's growing into the ground or where it's joined the ground. You just cut it there where it's heading up, and it will release its grip on the tree. And then the tree will reintroduce shade to the area, and the grape will have a big trouble getting back. So here we have beautiful park used by the folks of the people here in Wayne. Okay, it's beautiful, well kept, nice new lights. And on the opposite side here, we have this heavy growth again. We're gonna walk down a little bit. And here is an entrance point. Again, not too many folks are going down here, so this is probably a deer trail. And we come to an empty area. This is one of the higher banks, the higher bank of the river, because there's a couple of banks. There's this higher bank, and then the highest bank that we were just at back there. And then we see the bank that it's settled into at this point below us. The water is heavily silted. It's carrying a lot of pollution. We can see some of the settling that's going on right here. And this settling is actually very good because it's unloading the load that it's carrying. The problem is that each time it gets down a little area where it can unload some of the silt, another street sewer line is introduced that brings more silt with it. And again, you can see here, this is a beautiful trail that we can walk through, heavily greened. There are some grape providing the problem I was talking about earlier, and they've gotten very large. So if we were to take out this right here, these two, and just cut them at the base, all of that would fall down by next spring, and we would see new trees growing in that area. And here we have an interesting situation, and I'm smelling some sewage. And okay, so let's take a look at this and discuss the problems that could be caused by this. First of all, you'll see where the water has come up here. The river comes up quite often. And we're seeing this runoff here, and it's strangely colored. Cement? I don't know what that is. There it is coming out and heading down that way. I'm not seeing where it's mixing in. Let's go see if it's got an oily sheen. I'm glad I have a few minutes to talk with you folks. See? Not gonna go any further than this because it's nasty. So there's the stuff coming out, and this is similar actually to some material, if I'm not mistaken, that is being seen under a new construction further to the east here. So we're going to be talking to some folks about that. And let's see if we can get. I'm not seeing if it's oily. I'm not taking a sample today. Oh, dang. It doesn't smell like sewage. It smells like some sort of chemical. So we'll need to report that. It's a pretty picture though, isn't it? But in the middle of it, there's some very nasty stuff, whatever it is. Okay, and it's heading down that way. Looks like some of it's getting deposited over here. And normally these banks would be loaded with crustaceans, with crawfish, crayfish. The other side there we see a pipe. I don't know if it's connected to something. And then there's some sandbanks. It would be nice to dig through there, but the water has cautions against it. There's chemicals in the water, and you have seen already the location of the sewer, so you got some E. coli going on there and other biologicals. Not to mention in the past, this river would have been clear. The water would have been running clear. So we're heading down this way a little bit, and we're going to take a look at another sandbank in the river. Now I'm going to draw your attention to a log jam. I'll refer to it as log jam around here. You can see a great deposit of sand all around through this area. So the water comes up here quite often. It looks like it was up here not too long ago. So there we have a sandbank before us across on the other side of the river. And then what is referred to as a log jam, but it's not a complete log jam. If it was complete, there would be folks down here taking it apart. We're gonna try and get closer to it because I think I'm seeing a grocery cart. So the thing about this would be, we see that blue pot in there and the grocery cart. What would be best for the river is to pull those things out of the log jam and leave the log jam there. We just saw that nasty stuff coming out of the water pipe, which is a drain pipe from the street and could be co-connected to sewage, so that's got to be addressed. But a log jam, something that slows down the water, will help the water drop its silt. It'll gather the silt, and it will also provide habitat for fish and other creatures like crustaceans. And when I'm talking about crustaceans, and I mentioned crayfish, I'm also including clams, oysters, and mussels, large enough to be of commercial value. Often they don't make it that large here anymore because of the difficulties that have been caused by all the poison and pollution in the water, which we can visibly see here. Again, guess you got to take my word for it, but I can show you other rivers and streams in the area that are clear that flow into this, so it shouldn't be carrying all this mess. And again, and indeed, yeah, let's go shopping. So ideally we pull that out in the blue bucket and leave the rest of it to degrade and capture things. See if we can get an example of what's going on, about what I'm talking about when it slows down the flow and getting deep over here. So we're gonna go out, I think it's gonna take us to a point. So we're gonna head over this direction, then we'll be ending this at 30 minutes. Some of the logs have been cut down for whatever reason. We had a problem with a bug not too long ago. Yeah, we're coming out on the point right now. I think we have a human guest over to our left, our right, pardon me. So, yeah, we're coming out to the point. I'm gonna stop right here, and we're gonna head over in that direction. Let's go back this way. This is gonna take us out to a point, and then we can head back towards the path that we were on. Here we are heading through here. These little plastic things are trees that were put out by some volunteers. Some of them are growing, some of them are not, some of them are knocked over. I didn't do that. And here we have a tent. Hello, who is ever in there? You're all safe, bro, or lady, whatever. Heading out towards the point. I don't know. Okay. So sometimes the water flows up here, and they tried to stop it, whoever these were, volunteers or whatever. Here is a railroad tie. We can tell because it's cut square, and in fact, there's a piece of iron sticking out of it. That's not too nice if you got hit with that. But down that way, the channel that's forming to make a little island here leads into the next section of the river. So we're coming down this way, across that little thing, that little depression. And there we have on the other side, a little camp going on. So we're not just limiting to this too, humans are in the natural area too, in the natural environment. 2 years ago, this was completely cleared. There was a bunch of little plastic tubes in here with the trees on it. I'm not seeing any more plastic tubes, so maybe they'll figure that out. Didn't quite work, but you gotta experiment. And what I might have seen is not happening. On this side, it is not clearer. The water is still heavy with silt. Now there's the possibility, wait a minute. I don't know what's going on when it comes around this point. Oh, there's a nice blue heron. See you later. Well, that would have been nice to get a close up, but didn't hit that one. We are seeing a little water clearing going on, and I'm thinking it's due not only to the fact that that thing is there and these other branches are here, but the water is slowing down here coming to this shallow area for this time, because it's shallow right now, but it could also be very deep. And then comes around the point there and heads back in this direction. Let's see what we can see in the water. Nice little bay back over there. And, oh, look at that. There must have been a whole herd of grocery carts, because there's another one there caught in the flood. And last year, this was pretty much a bigger island, and then it's been taken away because the place is changing as time goes on. And there's very interesting rocks and things. Here's the home of a bird that's no longer in the tree because the tree came down. So let me tell you the ash borer story. Here goes the ash borer story. The emerald ash borer. About 25 years ago, some pallets came into a city nearby here, and they had emerald ash borer eggs in it, or emerald ash borer worms in it, whatever it was. They got out and they turned into emerald ash borer moths, and they went around and laid their eggs on all the ash trees that were in the area. And the ash trees began to die. And there's some of their skeletons right there. They were all over in the forest, and people were worrying, and the state of Michigan said, don't transport any wood because you might transport the emerald ash borer. So all these were ash tree logs. Don't transport it because you might transport emerald ash borer and get worse. All this here is emerald ash trees. And a majority of that across the way too as well. And we see some in the background there. So that went on for a while. And suddenly the calls to not move the wood around and not do any of that stuff and worry about the emerald ash borer evaporated. And this is the reason. It turned out that the emerald ash borer was not eating the American ash tree. It was eating the Asian ash tree. And the Asian ash tree had actually started to form a uniculture in all of these forests. You see how pretty young these trees are? Many of them, especially right over there. The maples and others. There's birch growing down in here. Oak is coming back. Elm. They were here, but they were very small because the Asian ash tree grows really fast. What was it doing here? Well, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, the area around here wouldn't have had any of these trees, and it didn't even have the old growth trees that used to be here, the ones that were cut down. They were all cut down and floated off to Chicago and down to cut into lumber, sent down to New York, Richmond, Raleigh, Boston, Chicago we mentioned, down to Toledo, down into Detroit. So all the trees were gone. So they needed new trees because they wanted to have shade in the towns. So this salesperson showed up and they had emerald ash, the ash trees from Asia. They were from China, and they grew fast and they planted them all up and down the streets and they were great. But like many things that are taken from one spot to another where they don't live naturally, they liked where they lived. They didn't have any predators, and they escaped the cities, of course. They didn't just stay in there because they're prolific. And their seed spread and their pod spread, and the trees grew all over the place. Now, when it was discovered that the emerald ash borer wasn't eating the American ash tree, they left it alone. And what has been happening is that the native trees that live here are now reaching their normal sizes, growing larger, and changing the structure and face of these forested areas, meadow areas, and it's just changing everything for the better. Not that Asian ash trees are bad, but until the emerald ash borer showed up, they were just pushing everything else out. And now everything is back in balance. And I'm not going to say for now, everything is back in balance. And the thing will be for us to maintain that balance. To show you how deep this river can get. See these marks? This is on a tree which is on the point of the river, and we're not going to go out over there. So the water comes up that high. Here it is now. Water comes up that high, which is an additional 15 feet, 12 feet about easy. And then the boards and detritus in the river, just like it's happening against this tree right here, would bang against it and scar it. Across the way, though, we see the larger trees. So the trees, this river is changing its course right now. It'll either go through that way or continue on this way and turn. You can see it heading down there. This is a very low water right now. Be a good time to collect minerals and such things like that. But the thing to remember with this river is that it is poison. It has got organic mercury in it. It has got other chemicals in it from manufacturing all around here. It has lead in it. Probably other heavy metals like cadmium. And of course it's got E. coli in there. Who knows how much right now or when it happens. And other biologicals. And by other biologicals, I mean viruses and germs and bacteria. If you come in contact with the water, you're supposed to wash right away. There's also supposed to be signs around here telling you to do that. There was an agreement about 35, 40 years ago. The federal government said that they would not make the local governments clean this stuff up and clean everything up if they posted signs saying the stuff was dangerous. But as you can see or can't see, they didn't do it. So you get warnings like this. From people like me, the 5 or 6 that know what's going on. And now you know. So you're one of the 5 or 6 million. And there you go. There's some pretty stuff for you. And there's a lot of mosquitoes down here, but I love them. As long as they're not biting me. There's some nylon cord down there. Not good for fish, not good for waterfowl. There is a bicycle tire rubber down there. There's a tire over there. There's some piece of metal, looks like, or yeah, a metal box. So there's still a lot of things to clean up down here without pulling all the trees out and cutting them down. As you can see, that one across the way there was cut. And then here we see the natural occurrence of silt and rocks and such things like that. And who knows what would have happened with the change of the course if it had just been left alone. Hopefully that'll be left alone down there so that can continue in its natural way. If these things are left alone, we got to get the nasty stuff out. Oh, it smells like sewage over here too. The river will right itself just as the forest did. So it takes time. Coming back down into this area here. And we're at 2742. Oh, and there's water. There is water under that stuff, so we'll just stay out of that. And we're heading back this way. Everything's good, just walking past. It's a red thing over there. Plastic tubes with whatever tree that is. I got that tree growing in my yard. It comes up like a bush. So we'll have to take a look at that as well. There you go. And a landscape. Again, we're inside a city which has 17,255 people, or 51, depending on which sign we look at. And the general area all around has got 1.2 million people in it. So that guy back there, or whoever that is living down here in that area, in this area, which gets, on occasion, inundated with sewage. Oh, man. You'd think the air would be fresh in the forest, but it tends to gather in clouds. Gonna bring a gas mask down here. Okay. It's one of 2 ways out. Let's take the pretty way and towards the sun. Because we're going to be walking around the block with this one. And we'll be coming to a close in a minute because it's about 29 minutes and 30 seconds. And we're going for 30 minutes today. I've had a very nice time walking and talking with you. Let's take a look at some wildflowers before I say goodbye. And these bad boys are 5 feet tall. Those guys are 6 feet tall. And goldenrod over here makes a lot of people sneeze. It's a beauty. I didn't know with trees like that. Okay, thank you.